Good evening and welcome to BTV. My name is Matt Osborne. Tonight we've got a special on BDSM. For those of you that don't know, that stands for bondage, discipline and sadomasochism. That's coming up now in Dig Deeper.
Good evening and welcome to Dig Deeper with Malice. Tonight on Dig Deeper we're going to be discussing the world of kink and BDSM, once thought of as a psychosexual disorder in which a person's sexual arousal is dependent on fantasizing or engaging in sexual behaviour that is atypical or extreme. That's paraphilia. Well, times have certainly changed and images of kink are appearing more and more in the mainstream. Tonight I'd like to visit this world with a few of its players. So a big welcome to Lisa-Skye, comedian and kinky person.
Hi there.
Hunter, or possibly Master Hunter.
All of the above.
And Dylen, welcome. Thanks for joining me. So firstly, when you guys are referring to the way you like to play, do you talk about BDSM, which kind of seems to be either bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism, or dominance, submission? Or do you just talk about being kinky? Anyone?
I just use whatever term, because it's all about communication. I just use whatever term the other person's going to understand. So if I say BDSM and they say, what? I just say, kinky stuff. And I just kind of use, I tend to erroneously use everything as a catch-all umbrella.
Yep.
So
it depends upon your audience.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I'm not going to say to somebody that I teach classes on perversion because it makes me sound like I have a degree, which I do not. I can say that I do. Yeah. I'm more likely to say I teach people how to tie each other up safely or hurt each other safely. Yep. Either way, it's a lot of conversation, mainly about consent, and then going from there.
Let's talk about a few terms you might hear within the BDSM world. So can you explain what a top and bottom is? Because in the gay world, these mean something else, of course.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to go?
You go, yeah.
Given that face. Top and bottom, certainly in the gay community that I've encountered, is usually top being active in sexual interaction and bottom being passive. Yep. So far as BDSM is concerned, it's kind of similar, but a top is usually a shorter amount of time, but being the dominant person in that interaction.
Okay.
And bottom being still catcher. Don't be a pitcher. You are.
Do you know anything about baseball?
No, I made it up. Read about it on the
other one who does the thing with the
guy with
that baseball guy or that baseball guy.
Yeah. They catch some stuff, I hear. Yeah, sure.
You don't know sports.
Sport, well, sexy sport, surely. So, so here's where I get confused. What's the difference between a dom, a top, and a master?
But you're all of them at once.
I am all of them at once. Dominant is more about a dynamic.
Okay.
So dominant usually is partnered with a submissive, hopefully, or a switch. That can happen too. So dominant party being top of the food chain. Yep. Submissive party being lower than that. Master, in my vernacular, is someone who's done this for a long time and has earned the right to have that name. So they're usually very good at what they do. Okay,
so you've kind of graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's
Having said that, you get a lot of 34-year-old guys who jump on
22-year-old.
22-year-old guys and call themselves like Master Trent.
But you don't see a lot of them in the community.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay,
they don't last long.
Okay.
With their nylon rope from Bunnings.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
Really? Yes, I've brought... Someone brought in some rope. And as Lisa just said, it's definitely not the nylon variety because you don't want it to hurt that much.
See, I like the hemp rope. I like the scratchy stuff.
Hemp rope is because it's got teeth, so it like grips onto each other itself really nicely.
All right, so it depends on your kink, I guess, doesn't it? Good.
And budget.
Yeah. Hello, we'll talk about that too. So on the other side of the coin we have the bottom subs slaves. So is there much difference between these three?
I'll let you take that one.
A bottom is usually the opposite of a top, so that might apply particularly for a scene and may not have dominant submission in there. Okay. A sub may be someone that chooses to submit either for a scene or as part of a dynamic, and there's a choice in going into that space and then coming back out. Whereas a slave, it's a very different headspace and it's a point of surrender and that's it.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, right. So there is quite a difference then, I guess.
Yeah. It's I guess it's interesting to talk about labels because I love labels, but I also kind of tend to use them interchangeably and things as well. So, I mean, I tend to have a lot of relationships, even though I'm more dominant than anything. I tend to have relationships with other dominants, which means that there's no kind of psycho power dynamic, but there's just us tearing shreds into each other.
That's interesting.
Yes, it is. So yeah, labels are really great, but the worst thing in the world is when you're at a kink club and someone asks you, are you a top, bottom or switch? And you answer, and depending on their answer, they decide whether they're going to keep talking to you or not.
Oh wow, really?
Because everything should still be kind of, like it shouldn't be, labels shouldn't be a full stop, they should be a beginning of a conversation.
I was going to say, yeah.
The label on a box and there's a definition in there. Ask what the
Exactly,
definition is.
yes.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So it sort of seems like there needs to be complementary kind of roles mostly, but you were just talking about having two dominants.
Yeah.
So
it can happen.
Yeah.
And then there's the game of, a friend of mine uses the term switch fight, but it helps if
Loser bottoms.
Yeah, and the loser bottoms to the other one. That being
nice.
said, if two people are tops and they really don't want to lose, that can take a very long time. A very, very
But see,
long
that's
time.
the thing. Like with
Or
my
heavy
play,
implement.
I have relationships where I we're kind of bottoming and topping and like kind of changing the dynamic during the scene.
Wow,
Kind of really fluidly like that. And then there are ones where we just don't have. It just happens we both identify as dominants, but in our relationship we don't have labels or roles or anything. We just have a lot of really rough, fun play. It's like, it's more sensory than kind of, and I think people can get really caught up in that. It's like, well, I'm a dominant, therefore I don't want you to hold me down, or like I don't want you to scratch me. But scratching can be really fun. It does not, it doesn't have to be a submissive act. Ladies, I'm basically only on here to like hunt for trade.
To pick up trade.
Twitter at the Lisa-Skye, Facebook / the Lisa-Skye, Instagram the Lisa-Skye.
Okay, so obviously you're identifying as dominant, not that we like the labels necessarily.
I tend to just say top because it's easier.
Okay, and Hunter?
I identify as dominant, master and top,
Okay.
and alpha, and
All round fun
pretty
guy.
much all of the above.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dylan?
Slave and
Yeah.
pony.
And I identify as a switch.
Hooray.
Yay!
I tend to switch, but it's just easier for conversation again. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's funny,
Dylan said.
I've heard that switches, yes, that's a thing, but people do tend to go towards either side a bit, I think, like
Not
one
necessarily.
side. No, you
It's-
haven't found that?
There is a weird thing around, certainly in the BDSM community that I've encountered, where people just believe that you haven't made up your mind and you have to be one or the other.
Okay.
And like the bisexual,
I was
that
going
they're
to say,
not meant to
I
exist.
have had this, yes,
That's right.
also. It's fascinating stuff, and we're going to be talking more BDSM next Dig Deeper. See you then.
Well, that was a lot of leather. After the break, we're going to be back with lip service, so please stick around.
Think before you speak.
The last time I told you, when you told your mother and your mother told me that you
A
told
slip
her
of the
the secret,
tongue.
I told you not to tell me.
Lip service. Yeah. Julian, trapped wind. Righty-ho. We'll see if we can deal with that one. Thanks. You're with Lip Service on BTV, and we're here to help you solve your problems. With me, as usual, the lovely Craig, the beautiful Jessica, and Dr. Nate at no expense. Absolutely no expense. Now then, Julian just called with a problem. He's been dating for 3 years, and his boyfriend never farts, so he doesn't feel able to break wind himself.
I think we need a medical opinion on this
What exactly
one.
is farting?
So farting is just a little bit of gas built up in the sort of intestines, and it's sort of when food products and things break down, they create gas. And
So it's perfectly natural.
perfectly natural. Everybody farts.
Everybody.
Everybody farts. If you don't fart, this is the thing. If you're not farting in front of them through the day, it has to come out sometime. So I'm assuming the bedroom's a little bit smelly.
Yeah. So if you're not farting, that's actually probably quite unhealthy.
Well, it's not a great thing. Like you need to be able to get it out.
Perhaps it's just respect. Perhaps Julian's boyfriend just respects him and decides that he would do that in some other private area, you know?
Yeah, well,
Isn't that nice? Unusual.
I actually heard of a couple who were married for like 20 years and had never
no.
farted in front of each
Wow.
other. Yes, so I
Shut the
think it
front
can
door.
happen. I think it can happen.
Years.
But the question is, is it uncomfortable?
Well, it would be, wouldn't it?
You'd think so.
Yeah. I speak from experience.
No, but it
You're
would
not
be.
one to keep it in.
Dare you? What would be natural? How many farts a day would be normal?
10? I don't know.
10? Has there been studies?
There probably has. I've never actually looked into it. You know, it's
We
not
must
a-
for next time.
Yeah.
I can feel one coming on right now.
Well, we've provided random fruit
I love
to
it.
keep us all regular,
Yes.
which kind of will help with such situations. So, is the relationship doomed? Back to Julian.
Not at all. No.
No?
I
You think it's a good thing?
Yeah, I think maybe they need a couple more years before that level of comfort to happen. But
A couple more, 5 years.
I
before
think
you
they
fart.
respect
Too far
it.
gone now.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Can't really introduce
No.
Farting after 3
farting
years.
at this stage.
Because as soon as you do, then it's like, oh, well, like it's
Yeah.
you set a precedent. That's the relationship is, no farts, and
Now, Nate's about to get married, as I view it. That's very exciting.
Ah.
Do you fart in front of each other?
yeah.
How long did it take?
It took me getting drunk.
Right.
Yeah. So
Charming.
yeah, so probably like not that long, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Positive reaction?
Not a reaction, I don't think.
Oh, just
was
pretended it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Kind of tricky sometimes,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
So it's been implemented now.
Yeah,
You're
so it's
fine.
just a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your
That's
case,
good.
Jess, how long did it take?
I don't know, actually. It was probably so gradual. I didn't even notice.
Gradual
I
breaking
mean, now
of
she
wind.
calls me trumpet, but I mean, we won't go. Bad.
Yeah, and usually people hear me before they hear me
But,
speak.
well,
Yeah,
yes, we've all heard yours, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
only fart in front of my pussy.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because I'm a single man anyway, so
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to share us?
Just the pussy.
the pussy.
Yeah, just the pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
the pussy has a name.
Miss Serendipity is my partner of
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Feline pussy, we are talking.
Feline, yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she snores
Yeah.
very loudly.
Does she fart?
I don't think so. No, not that I'm aware of. Anyway,
Oh, well.
occasionally
been
she's a bit
keeping
smelly,
that.
but cats aren't that smelly. I don't think.
Do you know what? I think we've talked long enough about
I know.
farting.
Yes.
I think we
let's
should
Please.
move on.
Subject.
Okay. Now then, who was this that called in? This was Michael from the sound room. I had a mad crush on this guy. Michael had a mad crush on this guy, and he's apparently talked to him on Facebook. He reads his posts, but he never replies. Should Michael tell him that he likes him or back
Over
off?
Facebook or in person?
I don't know. Just tell him.
Oh.
I assume they know each. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's in a different country.
So he stalks him, he likes him, but he.
So you think Michael's a stalker?
Well, I don't know.
It's a bit judgmental. Maybe this man is Michael's one true love, and maybe he needs to tell him, and then he'll reciprocate.
Oh, that
It's the
land
happy
you live
place
in,
again,
mate.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Where everything is lovely.
I don't understand Facebook and the nature of the interactions is all very confusing to me. You know, I like paper and a pen. Write a nice letter, perhaps.
Letter. Who ever thought? Letter?
Well, what does he want out of it? I mean, does he want to
Well,
pursue
'cause
something further, or is he just saying that
I
he
think
likes
he wants a
this
shag
guy?
by the sound. of it.
Well, I think you
just a
should just
shag.
send him a private message.
Private message.
But did he say he wasn't responding?
He's reading his posts, so he's
He's just watching
watching from afar,
But no actual response.
but being
right.
mysterious.
Right. Right. Interesting.
How do you know somebody's watching your posts?
Well, that's the thing that
You don't.
it doesn't.
So this is just made up.
No, wait. So, but I thought he was watching his
You should
post.
ask the
I
sound
thought
guy,
that,
shouldn't you?
that he was watching this other.
Michael was
gentleman's-
watching the other man's post.
Yes.
I've talked to him on Facebook. Oh, they talk on Facebook, and he reads my post. He says, but how can he know?
Maybe from talking on Facebook.
Michael's having us on.
No, but maybe from speaking. Said, I liked what you said yesterday.
Yes.
That looked like amazing breakfast.
Yeah.
Maybe they,
right, yeah, that
so he
sort of
knows.
level.
Maybe
He
he
knows.
comments.
Yeah.
Maybe he likes things.
Yeah.
Right. By liking, you would know that somebody's right.
Yes.
I understand.
Probably
Yeah.
something like that.
Which
Yeah.
means it's probably going to relationship. That's
It's budding romance, isn't it?
It is.
It's
It
romance,
is.
isn't
How
it?
about this crazy thing called a face-to-face interaction?
Letters,
maybe-
meetings.
Well,
Goodness
you know,
me.
But
meeting
Facebook-
up and talking to each other face to face.
Yeah.
Perhaps they could go for a drink.
The
Michael,
internet.
How about a drink?
The internet has ruined the dating scene.
I don't know.
Oh,
can't
I don't
answer
know about that.
Do you think?
I'd say it's given
Well,
it
in the old
an
days,
injection.
you know, a couple of years
Yeah.
ago,
Yes.
you know, people would go out and would meet and
Yeah.
interact. But now they stay at home and
Do you know, but I think that, a certain amount of social interaction, yes, but, you look at all the dating sites. I know lots of people who have had very successful relationships because of dating sites.
Dating
so,
sites.
you know, and they may never have met.
You're with Lip Service. We solve your problems. We want to hear from you. So please email us at feedback@benttv.org.au and we'll see you next time.
So that was Lip Service. Coming up next, we've got Mistress Malice and BDSM. You're watching Bent TV.
Welcome back to Dig Deeper's Kink Special, and I'm joined once again by Lisa-Skye, Hunter and Dylen. Dylen, you were talking about as a slave, this is something difficult for you possibly?
I was saying it can be interesting being around switchers sometimes with the energy, because as a slave, there are ways I naturally and instinctively react to a person, and if their energy is changed, it creates a different dynamic to be interacting with them.
The stuff that I'm into very much depends on very much depends on what the other person is into. So I'm not going to go to someone and say, here's what I like to do this role play and use these toys and use this thing, because as I kind of tend to identify as a service top. So I only want to do what you want me to do, even if you really hate it. And you know, calling me all sorts of terrible names, which makes me cackle like an idiot. I'm very flexible, whereas I know people who are just like, I only like this, you know, I only like being tied up with rope, or I only like adult baby stuff, or, you know, there are very, you know, people who are very much only into this one type of kink. Whereas like, it's all good, what do you want? We can discuss it. Here are my hard limits.
Well that's, it's all a bit of fun, right?
And a lot of people don't recognise as well that switchers can maintain different roles at the same time with different dynamics. It's not just being one person and then switching over. They can have different roles, different relationships at the same time.
Have you guys always known you were into kink?
Yeah.
Yeah, always?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
When I was
You're
like...
the new kid.
When I was like 5 or 6 years old, the folklore leghorn getting tied up and forced feminized, like made into a lady, I thought about that a lot.
Interesting.
Really?
Do you remember that
I do
episode
remember.
of Bugs Bunny? Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Most kinky people are like, I don't know why that's good. But yeah, it was always there. Like having a crush on Wendy James from Transvision Vamp. You know, you can't like, I always knew I was queer.
That, though,
she was amazing. I always knew I was queer. I always knew I was kinky. There was no real coming out. It was just like, oh yeah, there's a word for it and it's that. Cool, let's move on. I think because my parents were such like, you know, accepting hippie people. So.
Yeah, I had the same thing. My parents were in the television industry, so I was like, I'm doing this now. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then like,
supportive parents.
It is helpful.
Oh, they did have a meltdown when I came out as poly.
Oh, really?
A huge one, yeah.
Wow, okay.
It's okay if you tie your partner up, just don't have more than one.
Interesting to me that,
it was interesting to me. I'm like, how? They did that too when I moved in with my first boyfriend. I don't know where their moral, kind of weird moral lines in the sand are. When
you were first getting into it, did you guys go to clubs or venues, or did you do the online thing, or?
He got enjoyed before the internet.
That's right, I was around before the internet. I read about it I picked up Drummer magazine. I went to a dirty adult shop when I turned 16. It's okay, I'm well above that now. And I went in there and I found saw this really hot leather man on this thing. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then took it home and spent a lot of time studying. And then from there, found out about clubs and went to, you know, did all the workshops back. I was living in Sydney. Sydney Leather Pride was really helpful. And so they run workshops and that kind of thing, and I was there all the time. Yeah. And then when I turned 18, they finally asked me for ID, and they were like, oh my God. Like, well, it's okay, I've learnt a lot, it's fine. I'm not doing anything unsafely. But no,
Yeah, cool.
But clubs were really helpful as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't go into them under 18, kids.
I used to go to a lot of gay clubs and a lot of alternative clubs. So things like Three Faces and also Q&A. I also went to Bound at Paladin. This beautiful, like 7 foot tall goth boy that I used to work with took me there once, and I watched him get flogged, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. And then I saw my weird cousin there.
I went to
Hellfire?
one. Thank you. That's the one, Hellfire, right? So I went to that, reopened at one point, and some guy just hanging around, sort of, you know,
Just
watching
seeing
the
what's
whipping going on.
yeah.
He's, turns to me saying, "Are you going to get whipped?" Kind of creepy. There's sort of there's a lot of kind of spectator action. Have you found that?
Oh yeah, they're just having a look. Like,
yeah,
they're just checking it out.
And getting really close and talking to people, and there is.
You need to outbutch them. That's like, as a pretty girl, I find the only thing, because they have the power if they're looking at you and say like, "Oh, so what do you reckon? Are you into this?"
Yeah.
Or you just start talking like, it's like, "Oh, nobody, maybe," and or just look at them and say, "Darling, I would tear through you like wet tissue paper." Like, yep, no worries.
Nice.
All right, thanks for that.
Good. So, hey, I've read that 5% of the populace fesses up to being attracted to this kind of kinkiness.
The rest of them are liars.
Well, I wonder, this is what I wonder, do you think it's much more popular and people just can't kind of come out with it yet?
That's what I was saying before. A lot of people do stuff that is perceived as kinky at home and don't actually tell anyone about it. And then when you go, "I'm into this," they go, "Oh, me too. I did that with this partner or this partner or whatever."
Sex dice are kinky.
Sex dice.
Yeah,
You know those sex dice like fondle nipple.
Yep.
And some people
done that.
Yeah.
Some people may be happy with having a fetish, but won't identify as kinky. There's a label there.
Just like this, just one little bit.
I just do this.
Yeah.
I'm just a straight guy, but I really like boots and I want to lick them. Whatever though, I only have sex the 3 ways.
Yeah, and that can be challenging as well. I've had a friend that said, I'm too vanilla for the kinksters, because he had a fetish, but too kinky for the vanillas.
Oh, really?
So you can get...
If he's not a girl, not yet a woman.
The Kama Sutra mentioned 4 different types of hitting apparently during sexy time, and also explicitly emphasises that biting and pinching during sexiness should only be performed consensually.
Always consent.
So is this where the line's drawn, do you think, between, say, sexual violence and...
Safe, and consensual.
Yeah, okay.
Risk-aware consensual kink.
Huh?
Risk-aware consensual kink.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
risk-aware consensual kink.
I'm aware of the risks that I'm taking.
Excellent.
And I'm choosing to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it in a safe way,
Doing it in a safe way.
in a sane way, and in a consensual way.
Yeah.
Question regarding the bisexuals. Do you think there's a higher incidence of bis getting into kind of kinky stuff?
I don't know if it's higher. I think it certainly is directly related to people have done a lot more thinking and have worked out what it is that they do and don't want.
Should we just say about bisexuality? I don't like to identify as bisexual because it implies gender binaries. So I just like to say queer.
Pansexual.
Pansexual or queer.
I like pan. No, I don't like pants.
I think the community as well gives people the opportunity to explore more dynamics in relationships and find potential partners and identify as bi than you'd get in vanilla context.
I mean, I know that I do get really shocked when people say that they only prefer one gender in the kink, because it tends to be, and also I run a fat burlesque troupe, so it tends to be like they're all of these, because Melbourne is so incestuous, like, you know, kind of goths and rad fatties and kinksters and polys, they all kind of move in these, like the Venn diagram is almost a circle. So yeah, like I know that there's a girl that I was on a panel with once who identified as polyamorous, so she had multiple partners, but she was also vanilla and heterosexual. And that was a massive curiosity for me. She was lovely and amazing. I was just like, "So you just like having regular sex with dudes, but lots of it?" She's like, "Yeah, I love it." I'm like,
just a quick word about the bisexual thing though. I think people who feel more likely to come out to someone and say, "Listen, I want you to dress up like a dog and bark," you're going to go, "Okay, I like to have sex with someone who's the same gender as me." And everyone's just going to go, "Okay." And the gender of the person doesn't matter so long as they're happy to dress up as a dog and bark, I guess.
I think that's what people think. People confuse the kink scene with the swinger scene and think that it's like they'll get into the club and some like it hot but some sweat when the heat is on, and there's just people rushing, which isn't the case. Although there is, and people freak out because they'll see a vinyl bed with someone getting needles stuck into them and they're like, "Oh, this isn't in the Rihanna film clip." So kink is not just about sex and not just about genitals and or about sexual acts.
That makes it much more interesting, doesn't it, I think? That's all we have time for currently on our current Dig Deeper kink. But we will be back. Thank you to Lisa-Skye, Hunter and Dylen.
Thank you so much for watching tonight. Bent TV is a non-for-profit organisation. Any help, any volunteers, please, please, please would be very welcome. www.benttv.org.au. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.